In this episode, I'm going to share the marketing strategy that some of the best performing practices are using right now in order to attract young private pay patients, grow market share against some of the big, hairy Goliaths, and build phenomenal practices. Let's jump in. Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the #1 marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. All right, so welcome along, and we're going to talk marketing strategy. Now, many of these episodes, we're in the details, right? It's like, okay, how do you do this? It's a little pricing tweak here, or what is the messaging around this, or how do we attract more of these patients through using this angle, blah, 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 blah. We are zooming out. We are getting in that helicopter, going several thousand feet in the air and looking at big strategic play. Like, how do we actually achieve the meaningful results that we all want as a practice? And look, do you know your marketing strategy right now? And the answer for many practices is no. We kind of have a strategy, but we don't is usually the answer. And what that means is, like, we have a website, we do a bit of ads, we spend money here. If the newspaper tells us they've got an advert, then we'll consider it in the moment. It's messy. It's a little reactive. It's not particularly proactive. And there isn't really a strong understanding of how it works, how it sits together, the deep thinking behind it to ensure that every dollar is invested in the wisest way possible. And we're building a strategy that is going to protect and help us in the years to come. It's a little more reactive. Let's play, let's try, let's test, let's measure. Let's just kind of keep doing, and unless things break, don't change it. Now, over the past 7 years, we've been working with a large number of practices. Right now, we partner with just over 65 practices in North America that are all doing phenomenal things, achieving phenomenal results, and very much leading the community by being super iconic for the types of patients they want to work with. And I'm going to share the exact methodology of how our marketing strategy that we help them to implement sits together. Everything that you've ever seen me talk about sits inside this marketing strategy. All the little details all sit within it, but I want to give you the overarching 9 foundational steps for how practices achieve results in today's market. That sound good? All right, let's jump in. And we're going to go through these 9, right? These are big things, and maybe we'll write them on the screen as I say each one. Sorry, video editor, a little bit of extra work for you, but let's keep this as clear as possible because it is in order. Here's number 1. Number 1 is start with who. Now, many moons ago, when I first started to explore marketing, learn about marketing, I learned something called market message media. And that essentially meant if you were ever looking to run any form of marketing or advertising, you always needed to start with who is the market that I'm looking to target, what is the right message to get the message to that market, and then only then can you decide the media. The media is the modality of how you deliver that message to that market. Now, what traditionally goes wrong for a lot of marketing and advertising in a lot of businesses is they kind of start with a modality first. It's, we've decided we want to run some Facebook ads. It's like, oh, great, who to? These patients, what do you want to say? It's all the wrong way around. They're deciding the media they want to use and then deciding the market and the message. It's broken. You've got to start with who are we looking to reach? What is the message in order to reach them? Then what is the right message to get to those people? Let's play this through, right? If you want to target 60-year-old men with lots of money, you want a message to them to tell them they should care more about their hearing, what would be the platform, what would be the media to deliver it? Probably OnlyFans, if we're honest. But beyond that, like these are the considerations, right? It's probably Facebook, right? That would make sense. So like this is the game. And this is where starting with who becomes super clear, because the more specificity you can have about the types of patients that you're looking to work with, the more you can ensure your messaging directly speaks to them. And then the marketing decisions you make for your media are as wise and smart as possible. And given that the market is growing so significantly, we take US numbers, and over the next 6 years, the number of 70-year-olds is going to reach north of 80 million, whereas right now it's closest to about 25 to 30 million. Like, the market is getting so much bigger. We've then got Apple's heightened awareness around hearing loss, hearing health, and hearing care, with hearing loss and solving a hearing challenge becoming a mass market problem rather than the niche market problem it originally was. And all of a sudden, we have far more autonomy to be very, very specific about the types of patients we want to work with. You need to start with your who. That is so clean and clear. Because if you look at any other industry, they break into three categories, right? You have mass market offerings, you have niche market offerings, you have luxury market offerings. I've spoken about this before, but like right now we can really play this. So take any other industry. There's a solution that's for like the 60 to 70% of that market. You then have the niche market, which is a solution for people that are passionate about something that are typically in the top 20% of earners. And then you have the luxury market. It's the 1% status focus. They want to buy it so others cannot. Breaks into everything. Cars, you have a mass market car. You have a niche market car for people that have a certain interest. Maybe it's off-roading, four-wheel driving. They want a car where they'll spend significantly more for the car that does that. And then you have the luxury market, right? You have people that will spend on a Rolls Royce or a sports car, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, that will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, not because it's more convenient than the mass market car. If anything, it's significantly more inconvenient, but it's status. It shows others that they have it and others cannot. It plays towards ego. Take that in everything. If you look at like a jump rope, a skipping rope, there is a mass market option that you can buy for like $5. It does the job. But you could spend $200 if you're interested in CrossFit and you need the exact right jump rope with the exact right measurements for you. You can go and spend €200 or $200 if that is the niche and interest. And then you've got the luxury market where you can literally spend up to $1,000 on a jump rope. It's cashmere, it's lambskin, it's things that you never thought would even be considered for a jump rope, but there is a market for it. It breaks down to everything from chocolate through to clothes, through to watches, through to pretty much everything. And as an industry right now, you've got autonomy to really play in those niche markets. We've always been mass market, right? We've put a pin in a map and said we help everyone with a hearing loss in this area. You can be far more specific with our market being so big right now, where you could say we help these type of people to get results. If you can start with the who and get that clear, then know with confidence that you can then do the work in order to show those people that you're the only logical option for them. Speak their language, speak to them, speak to their needs, cares and desires, and as a result, be the logical option for them. So that is number one. You've got to get clear on who you're looking to target. You want to start with who. Once you've got that defined, here's step 2 of the strategy. You need to look like the business that you want to become. Because, look, let's play this out. Right now, the number of boomers that are doing their research and due diligence online to make a decision on who they want to choose is growing. We were looking at the stats across our own organization, and we do big picture data at the end of every year, look at all our members' website data, combine it and see any big trends. And what we seen a couple of years ago is, 2020, we originally started doing this, and what we seen was a number of 55 plus year olds that were doing research on websites, looking at websites, was very, very low. It was majority young patients doing the research. And our take on that was, this is people giving consideration to their loved ones. This is grandchildren, sons, daughters doing research on behalf of mum, dad, grandma, granddad. Whereas right now we're seeing that 55 plus market now doing their own research, which very much plays to this boomer trend that we're seeing. So as a result of a lot of people now doing their research and due diligence online, you cannot just look like a average practice. You can't look like everybody else. You need to look like the business that you want to become. And that means getting your shit in order, right? Ensure that your website is doing the job correctly. Does it reflect? Does it speak towards the people you're looking to serve? Does it deliver the evidence that you can help them solve the challenges they're looking to solve? Does it feel personable, that you're an expert? Does it prove your expertise? Like all the things that you want your business to become and what it is in the community, you need to build that so that's almost what you look like today. Because in the same way that if we start dressing like the person we want to become, we'll probably start feeling like the person we want to become, or any other situation like that. If we start taking the actions of someone who goes to the gym 7 days a week and looks in great shape, we'll probably start to look like that person in great shape. Like, you need to look like the business that you want to become. If you do that, naturally, you grow into that business significantly faster. So you've defined who you want to reach in the market. You've started with your who. You now look like the business that attracts that who, that serves that who, that is the best option for that who. Here's the third one. You need to build a never-ending body of evidence. Here's what I mean by this, right? Consumer trust is at an all-time low. Like, there's so many businesses that make big claims. We're all sick of claims. We have less trust for somebody making a claim through marketing and advertising than ever before. Your job needs to be that, could you stand in front of a jury and prove you are who you say you are? If you say you're this in your market and you help these people, can you have enough evidence to be able to stand in front of a jury, and have them all in complete agreement that there's not even a case? You are clearly have enough evidence to back up you are who you say you are. This needs to be so clear, and it's a never-ending job. If you say that we have hundreds, thousands of delighted patients, evidence. And evidence can be reviews, evidence can be case studies, but like, you need to prove it. You can't just say we do it without the evidence, because people look right through that. It doesn't have the value that it once did. Claims without evidence are not valid claims. So key. So could you collect case studies of patients that have achieved success, who fit the who that you're looking to reach, and build the evidence towards? If you say you're the expert, then your website should be the Wikipedia of hearing care. You need to be comprehensively answering every question about hearing loss, every question about hearing care, every question about tinnitus. Like, if anybody goes looking for a question to do their due diligence and research online, you need to be continually showing up. Because if you say you're the expert, be the expert. If you say that you give back to the community, that's a throwaway statement. Prove it. Show it. Who are the sports teams that you sponsor and care for? Show the case studies or the blogs of you visiting a local restaurant. Like, prove it. And this is so key. You need to build that never-ending body of evidence. Prove, prove, prove. If you didn't document it, if you don't prove it, you can't claim it. That is never been more true than in the market right now. So what have we done then? So we've got the who, we've defined who we want to target in our market, who we help. We look like the business we want to become, and we've collected all the evidence to prove that we are who we say we are. So we've built the brand essentially right now in order to be the logical option for the types of patients we want to work with. This is where we move into number 4. And this is the critical conversations that matter. Because one thing as an industry that we've been bad at in the past is communication, ironically, right? We don't communicate with our patients well enough. We don't communicate with the stakeholders that influence the growth of our organization well enough. Like, how well do you consistently communicate with your existing patients outside of the practice? And do you send an email communication regularly? Do you write to them regularly? And this has never been more important. How are you using social media? How are you communicating with the key physicians in your area? Like, these are things that can't be sporadic, no plan, no strategy, come as they go. These need to be strategically built. And the biggest trick right now, if you're looking to communicate with patients, is close the gap between the professional reason they chose you and the personal relationship that will turn them into superfans. So if you're sending an email newsletter, let's say, to your existing patients, don't write a newsletter all about the latest breakthroughs in hearing healthcare. Nobody really cares. What they want is to know the individuals and humanize the people that they come and spend time with for an appointment. You can get the balance right, but if the intro of that is, hey, happy February, here's what we're doing this month. I've got date night planned with my wife, my husband. My kids are doing this during the month. Here's a picture of a vacation that we recently had. Here's a restaurant that we visited on Saturday. If you've been there, it's around the corner from this. Like, could you show that you're real, you're human? Can you build personal connection that closes that gap between the professional reason they originally chose you to solve a challenge for them and the personal relationships that make them have that connection with you, which means they'll refer more, be more responsive, care more, be a patient for life? Like, can you close that gap through like email communications, email newsletter to your patients? How are you communicating with physicians? Like, are you just turning up with cookies and coffee and being more of an inconvenience to them when they're super busy between appointments? Or how can you prove that you care about the community? How can you show that you've got your finger on the pulse? How can you show that you're a trusted partner to them? Like, how do you deliver education to them? Is this a quarterly print newsletter? Is this an annual print newsletter? Is this another modality of how you're looking to reach them? Like, these are all options. We've got a certain recipe that we follow with many of our practices, and that is a monthly email newsletter done very, very well, and a quarterly physician newsletter done very, very well, implemented to a gold standard. Yours may be slightly different, but you need to give consideration to these critical conversations. because once you've defined your who, once you look like the practice you want to become, once you've built the never-ending body of evidence, you need to ensure that you're communicating effectively to grow referral partners, to ensure that you have patients for life and they don't buy from you, feel like an experienced hearing aid wearer, and then go for a cheaper solution on their second set, third set, or fourth set of devices. So they're the 4 steps up to now. Let's jump into the 5th. The 5th step is doers and achievers, not dreamers. Here's what I mean by this, and this is a little different to marketing strategy, but so key if you want growth as a practice, and that is who you hang around with matters a lot. Here's my encouragement to you. Be part of a community, be part of a group that have people who are looking to achieve similar things than you. This isn't a hearing care related exclusive thing. This is all elements of life, right? If you're around negative people that will always find the doom and gloom in every situation, you're probably gonna end up being one of those people. The joy in our industry, if you can get with private practices that are also looking to achieve phenomenal things and drive growth, is no matter what challenge you're experiencing in any moment, there's probably somebody else within that community that has solved that challenge, has a story to tell, and can give you the advice to help you to navigate it, whether that be a contact, a document, a little bit of advice, a conversation set up. Like, the more you can have a community around you of people doing similar things on a similar path, looking to achieve similar goals, the quicker you'll get there with less resistance. So simple one, but such a key one from there. So we've got those 5 steps. Let's jump back into the deep marketing strategy. Here's number 6. Number 6 is the basics to a gold standard consistently. This is probably the most fundamental thing of all of marketing. Once you've got your system up and running and you know who you're targeting, you look like the business you want to become, you're continually collecting evidence and you're communicating very well, you need to run that machine as effectively as possible and look for incremental improvements consistently. There's a guy called Sir Dave Brailsford. He's a British guy, and I want to tell you a little story now that I think will hit this point home very, very effectively. So in 2003, the British cycling team was in an awful position. They'd won 1 gold medal in the history of the Olympics. They'd never won the Tour de France, which is like the premier cycling championship, we'll call it. And it got to a point that British cycling was that bad that one of the biggest bike manufacturers refused to have British riders riding their bike because it was damaging to their brand. Really, really bad position. So what UK Cycling did is they hired a guy called Sir Dave Brailsford to be the performance director of British Cycling. And then from there, British Cycling was probably one of the most successful sports teams of all time for a period of time. So in the 2008 Olympics and the 2012 Olympics, British Cycling dominated. They set new world records. They collected 60% of all available medals. In 2012, a British guy called Bradley Wiggins won the Tour de France for the first time. Phenomenal achievement. In 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, British people won 4 on the bounce Tour de France. Like, British cycling went crazy. They pretty much dominated the sport. How did they do this? What did Sir Dave Brailsford do? He had something that he credits it to, and it was called the theory of marginal gains. Here's what that is. That is the obsession of 1% improvements in multiple areas that compound in order to make a significant improvement. So he didn't come in and change anything significantly, but he changed a lot of things very slightly. So little examples of this. And I'll give you some of like the crazy ones. Like, he hired a surgeon to come and speak to all the cyclists to show them how to wash their hands properly. Because if they caught a cold or was ill in the run-up to a race or during their training, then it could just make that marginal difference to their performance several weeks down the line when they're actually racing, and that could be detrimental. As a result, little improvement. The trucks where they do bike repairs, like, they painted everything in there pristine white. The reason for that, they knew that if a speck of dust was on the floor, it needed cleaning. Because if the floor was dark, a speck of dust would be missed. And if that got on the bike, it could slow down performance so marginally that could make a big difference. And there was like hundreds of these little areas, through to the types of shorts they wore, through to how they keep their legs heated when they're warming up. Like, really silly marginal things that on their own would make no difference whatsoever. But the compounding effect of all those marginal little improvements across the board resulted in a big improvement. As a result, that cycling team dominated the world, going from losers to heroes. which is interesting, right? And this basics to a gold standard consistently is the same. Could you have that same level of obsession? And this isn't like just do it once. This is like a belief system for the way that you operate your practice. Because if you cared about the front desk being 1% better on every phone call, if you cared about your hold music being 1% better, if you cared about the imagery on your website being 1% better, if you cared about the walk the patient makes from the waiting room to the space with your provider, how can that be 1% better? Like, can that picture be slightly better? Should that be a testimonial on the wall rather? Like, all these little things, how can we just be slightly better in all the areas that probably won't make a difference on their own? But if we do it over and over again and it becomes a belief system for the practice, we will have significantly better returns, significantly better results, and be best in class as a result of all those efforts. So let's back up. Started with the who. We know who we want to serve. We look like the practice that we want to become. We look like the practice that is the perfect person or the perfect group to serve the patient we want to work with. We then from there, what have I got here? We collect the never-ending body of evidence to prove we are who we say we are. We have those critical conversations to ensure our communication tracks with all the key stakeholders is as powerful as possible. We hang it around with the right people, the doers and achievers, not the dreamers, and we're delivering the basics to a gold standard consistently. What's next? The next is collecting your extra money. Because, look, as a practice, there's 3 ways that you can grow. You can get more patients. You can have patients increase their average transaction value, spend more money, or you can increase their frequency of purchase. Nearly all focus on growing a practice is how do we get more patients. Those other 2 are some of the biggest levers that you can pull to make meaningful differences in the growth and success and profitability of your practice. How do we get more patients to turn up for appointments? How do we get more patients to spend more money? And how do we increase how often they spend that money? Like, focus on them, you make big improvements. And this is where you can collect your extra money and where the big focus of the marketing strategy of this element is given. Because let's play this through, right? If you want more patients to turn up for an appointment, let's say 30 schedule and only 23 are showing up, how can we get that 23 to 26 to 27 to 28? Well, how well are your front desk pre-selling that appointment? How well are they leaving space for empathy with the patient? And how well are they pre-selling that patient that they're going to spend time with the right provider whose time is scarce and they'll be lucky to get an appointment? Like, all those little areas to move that 23 to 26 to 27 to 28 is super key. How do we ensure that patients increase their average transaction value? Well, how is your pricing currently positioned? Is this choose your hearing aid and you'll get 3 years service plan and we're pretty much the same as Costco, but we say we're better, but we can't really document or explain why? Or is it, here's the treatment plan, here's what you're going to get, here's the device, here's all the service, here's exactly how it's going to work, here's the hearing journey. Can you give strong confidence to the patient they're making a really wise buying decision and as a result, grow how much they spend? Can you use pricing intelligently? Can you have a decoy price that makes that look better value? Like, how can you use psychology here in order to make the patient make a better decision? And the better decision for the patient is nearly always better technology, right? Of course, in situations that isn't true. But in any instance, if you get a better version of something, you'll probably have a better experience. And we're not there to judge what a patient can and can't afford. We're there to make the best possible recommendation, and they need to make that decision financially for themselves. So you making the better decision and encouraging them to spend more is a choice, and it's a choice that you can be in control of, and you can grow the average transaction value. And then how do you grow the frequency of purchase? How do you set expectation of how often they should explore new technology? How do you build anchors into conversations? Do you give patients a minimum guaranteed future value on their devices prior to 48 months if they want to upgrade when they step into their first set of devices? Like, there's so much you can do in order to grow those key numbers, but you need to monitor them. You need to know they're the focus. You need to have a plan for them. And these are some of the joyful things that we get to do with our members when we drive them through this strategy and 9-step process. But that is the number 7 of the process, right? It's how do you collect your extra money? And we're not even going to talk service plans or some of the additional services or build plans and extra pricing models around things like hearing evals, but like there's so much that can go into that naturally. Then we come to number 8. And let's just zoom out before we go into number 8, because right now we're a practice who know who we want to target. We look like the business that we want to become. We have a bunch of evidence to say we help those types of patients to achieve the results they're looking for. We communicate everywhere with very well with all the key people that we need to communicate with. We hang around with the right people that are helping us move forward. From there, we're doing the basics to a gold standard consistently to keep improving and running that train track as effectively as possible. We've got all our finances dialed in, so we're collecting the money effectively. We're monitoring all our KPIs to ensure we're a high performance practice. Where do we go from there? And this is becoming iconic in your community. How do you become the name on the tip of the tongue of everybody in your community when hearing loss, hearing health, hearing aids, hearing care comes up in conversation? And this is a big part of how you win as a practice, right? This is reputation. Reputation 101. How do you have a reputation in your community as the go-to place that isn't reliant on you being number one on Google for a random search, which isn't reliant on you landing an advert in front of somebody at the right time? How do you just become the go-to place for your types of people? And traditionally, there's 3 ways to build reputation, right? And become iconic. You either spend the most on advertising so everybody knows your name. You're either around in the community so long that everybody knows who you are as a result, or it's reputation and referral partners. How well do people know you? How many people refer you? How many people talk about you behind your back? You can't control the amount of time you're in the community, and you probably don't want to get into a battle of spending more on advertising than everybody else. So the game here is, how do you just build reputation organically? And there's a lot you can do, right? Community, you can turn up to networking events, you can start just appearing more, sponsoring local sports teams, sponsoring that kid's soccer team, whatever that may be. Oh, it hurts me to say soccer. But we've got options like that, right? But what else can you do? What are the ways that you can accelerate this? And I'll give you a strategy right now. If you can start showing that you care about the community by visiting local businesses in the community, let's say a local restaurant, documenting it, take photos, write an article about it on your website. First of all, that's great for your existing patients. It shows that you care about the community. And you can put that in your email newsletter and all that fun stuff. But the beautiful play here is, if you can every month visit a local business, take pictures, document it, share it on your website, you then have the ability to post that on your social media feed, your business's social media feed, tag the business that you're spotlighting. And as a result, it nearly always will be a situation where that local business that is being talked about by somebody else in the community, they'll reshare it, they'll share it with their customers, they'll share it with their followers. And as a result, we're just growing local awareness. It's kind of organic advertising without cost. It's, we say nice things about another local business. They see that we say nice things about them. As a result, they say nice things about us. As a result, they share the nice words with their customers, clientele, and followers. So it's like there's so many plays that you can do to be strategic and smart in just showing that you care about the community and building local iconic status. So they're the 8 steps. What's the 9th one? And what's the final one? It's, so now what? Right? Once you've implemented those 8 steps, you know who you target, you look like the business you want to become, you naturally have this never-ending body of evidence that proves that we are who we say we are on an obnoxious level. We communicate very effectively with patients, with prospects, with physicians, with referral partners. We hang around with the right people naturally. From there, we deliver the basics to a gold standard consistently to ensure we're progressively moving forward and creating more distance between ourselves and all our competitors. We're very much dialed in, ensure our finances are dialed in. We are focusing on the KPIs to ensure all the key numbers in the practice are delivering in the way they should. We've got an iconic local status. And as a result, it's time to go back to the beginning. Because that cycle to get all that right isn't an overnight cycle. That can be 12 months, it can be 24 months, it can be 36 months. When you get to that final stage, you naturally, unless you want to just stay in the position you're in and hold, you probably need to go through another cycle, because the game has changed, right? You are now the business that you wanted to become. And now it's like, okay, well, what's the next step? Let's dream big again. Let's go. Let's do some goal setting. What do I want to look like in 2, 3, 4 years' time? Okay. Well, I want to look like that. So who are the types of patients? How do I look like the business that I want to grow into, i.e. the business that I've now goal set for? What's the evidence I need to collect? What are the critical conversations? And it's a cycle. And the practices we work with, we've got a good number on that first cycle of that. And we've got 3 or 4 who are on that 4th cycle of that, who are continually going round, who are now building legacy, building management teams, looking to exit out their business, and the business they want to become is a business that stands strong without them. So like, this is the strategy that we implement for our Inner Circle members. It's a strategy that we see and the evidence shows us is the right strategy to win for the long term. This isn't how do we manipulate Google to try and get a few positions higher. This isn't how do we try and fight Costco on this keyword, or they're running this advert, can we do this from a pricing perspective? This isn't little tactical things that we can try and do to win today, but with the cost of tomorrow being the sacrifice. This is how do we build a strategy with longevity that ensures that we're running a practice that attracts the type of patients we want to work with, that communicates effectively, that proves we are who we say we are, that naturally does all the things that we should do very, very well to a gold standard, that we're collecting our money effectively, we're building reputation and status in our communities. But if you can do that effectively, you win. That's the game. There's no arguing with it. That's the game. If you can do those things effectively, you can do it intelligently, and you can do it with love, focus, and consideration, you are going to be in a winning position for pretty much ever. That is business 101. So hopefully that has been helpful, and me peeling back the curtain to say, here's the strategy that the practices that we work with are utilizing and that we're helping them run in order to achieve success. Hope that's helpful. Hope that gives you some ideas. Hopefully that gives you some transparency. And do know that if you're like, I want to implement that, then this is what we do, right? We help great practices to prove their greatness, be iconic in their communities, attract the types of patients they want to work with, and deliver the basics to a gold standard consistently. If that's what you want, reach out. Let's have a conversation, and we'll see if it's a good fit and whether you're the type of practice that we can ensure we get great results for. But hopefully that has been helpful. And once again, I will speak to you again next week. Appreciate your ears, appreciate your time, appreciate your valuable energy. And I'll be back again to share even more in 7 days' time. Speak to you then. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end. And I have a quick favour to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats. And right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening. Pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.